It was a crisp autumn morning when Ryan Thompson, an ordinary man accustomed to the predictable rhythm of family life, found himself perched on the precipice of an unimaginable betrayal. The sun filtered through the orange and red leaves of the trees outside, illuminating the kitchen where he had spent countless mornings, crafting pancakes for his wife, Sarah, and their two children. He had built a life that revolved around trust, stability, and love. But beneath this veneer of domestic bliss lurked a sinister truth, one that would shatter the fabric of his existence. Ryan's life was characterized by hard work. He was a rising executive at a marketing firm, celebrated for his dedicated approach and innovative ideas. He had earned a decent salary and provided a comfortable home for his family. Meanwhile, Sarah had been his rock, the glue that held their home together, or so he believed. They had met in college, and their romance blossomed into a marriage that seemed unshakable. Yet, as he would soon learn, appearances can be deceiving. The realization hit him like a freight train. He stumbled upon a series of text messages on Sarah's phone that exposed her emotional affair with her boss, Mark, an influential figure in their social circle. He had suspected something off about her late-night meetings and unexplained absences, but this revelation confirmed his darkest fears. In those messages, Ryan read how Sarah spoke of Mark with an eagerness he had not heard in years. The intimacy, woven into her words, sent daggers through his heart. The moment of exposure was characterized by pure anguish. He confronted her in their living room, the air thick with tension. "How could you do this to us? To this family?" he demanded, his voice a mix of disbelief and despair. The shock on her face quickly melted into defiance. "You don't understand, Ryan. You've been so focused on work." "I felt utterly alone," she retorted, her eyes glaring defiantly. In that instant, Ryan felt a transformation begin to unfold within him. The hurt morphed into a fiery rage, igniting a long-dormant part of his personality that had always been suppressed by his desire for peace and stability. He had always prided himself on being the rational one, the keeper of the calm. But now, he decided to relinquish that facade. No longer would he be the victim, he would become the architect of his own vengeance. The next weeks unfolded in a haze of cold calculations. Ryan methodically gathered evidence, the incriminating texts, emails, and even photos of Sarah and Mark at work events, laughing, oblivious to the storm brewing on the other side. He began to enact a plan to not only expose their betrayal, but to dismantle the life they had built together. It wasn't enough for him to simply walk away. He needed to ensure they paid a price. His first step was to confront Mark. Ryan arranged an impromptu meeting at a corporate event, where he caught both Sarah and Mark off guard. As he stared Mark down, a wave of satisfaction washed over him. The tension in the air was palpable as he recounted Sarah's words and painted a stark picture of betrayal. "You think you can have her, Mark? You think you can take everything from me?" he sneered, the corners of his mouth twitching into a triumphant grin. The color drained from Mark's face, and Ryan could see the fear flickering in his eyes. News of the affair spread quickly through their social circle. Friends once loyal to Sarah began to distance themselves. The whispers echoed like the haunting cries of deserved judgment. The couple's once popular image gradually crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. Ryan made it his mission to ensure that Sarah and Mark both faced the consequences of their actions. He confronted their friends, revealing the sordid details of the affair, peeling back the layers of facade they had carefully constructed. Unofficially, he painted a vivid picture of betrayal with every conversation, fueling the flames of social disdain. As she became the target of laughter and cold shoulders, Ryan relished the way her facade cracked, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. He filed for divorce with a fierce resolve, seeking not just separation but financial recompense. With every document he signed, he felt empowered, reclaiming his narrative from the clutches of betrayal. Weeks turned into months, and the courtroom became his arena. It was a battle, not just over assets, but for dignity. The judge presiding was an unforgiving one, and Ryan laid bare the truth of Sarah's infidelities. He submitted evidence that showcased the depths of her deception, and the cold reality began to settle in. Public humiliation awaited her, from co-workers to familial ties. It was a brand she would carry for a lifetime. Ryan was relentless. He took control of their finances, freezing joint accounts and halting extravagant expenses. Sarah found herself scrambling, her roles stripped away layer by layer. Friends she once relied on turned their backs as quickly as she had betrayed him. The loss of comfort and stability was punishing. The societal shifts in her life were seismic, and with each step of this new life, Ryan rose higher, fueled by the inferno of the past betrayal. The final act of his revenge loomed large, a gothic crescendo of bitterness and satisfaction. The night of the emotional confrontation arrived, a meticulously orchestrated event spun with tension. Ryan invited close friends and acquaintances to dinner, extending what appeared to be an olive branch, a gathering intended to rebuild. As the evening progressed, Ryan steered the conversations towards light topics, but knew he would drop the bomb when the time was right. With everyone seated at the dining table, he caught his breath and stood, ready for the final confrontation. "I think it's time we addressed something that should never have happened," he declared, turning to Sarah, whose eyes widened in horror. The room fell silent. The incredulous stares of his friends fell on her, the woman who had once been loved and revered. As Ryan disclosed the details of her betrayal, revealing the depth of her deceit, Sarah's mask slipped. She reached across the table, desperate for grace, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. "I'm sorry," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Ryan smirked, savoring the moment. "You didn't mean for it to happen? You brought this upon yourself, Sarah. This is your doing." The room erupted in murmurs. The tension crackled in the air. Friends shifted uncomfortably, some darting glances at Sarah, their loyalty now standing firmly with Ryan. Mark, a shadow of his former self, shifted uncomfortably as the weight of ridicule bore down on him. As Ryan continued, punctuated by the crumbling walls of Sarah's dignity, the reality of their betrayal became an undeniable truth, leaving them stripped bare before their peers. In the end, Ryan had not merely won a battle, he had dismantled their lives, one emotionally charged revelation at a time. As Sarah, broken and exposed, attempted to plead for a second chance, Ryan turned away, a satisfied smile resting on his lips. "You had your chance, and you threw it away. Life does not grant do-overs." With that, he walked out of the room, the weight of his victory settling comfortably on his shoulders as the cries of devastation echoed behind him. The triumph of his transformation had eclipsed the shadows of betrayal. In that moment, he knew he had emerged from the ashes of a great loss, reshaped by pain into something more profound, an embodiment of survival, retribution, and undeniable strength. Ryan Thompson had become a force to be reckoned with, and the life he reclaimed would be one of fierce independence and unwavering resolve. In the aftermath of the public revelation, Ryan Thompson found himself traversing the razor-thin line between triumph and solitude. The exhilaration that surged through him after exposing Sarah and Mark was intoxicating, yet a deeper restlessness gnawed at his insides. He had not just affirmed his victory, he had stoked the fires of resentment that had been kindled by betrayal. Now, he faced the challenge of reconciling this newfound power with the cost it had extracted from his soul. Days turned into weeks, and the divorce proceedings loomed large over him. Every court date was a reminder of the emotional battlefield he had traversed. While Ryan presented a strong front, the reality of the situation was a different beast. Nights spent tossing and turning, haunted by images of his family's disintegration, often invaded his mind. He had meticulously orchestrated the downfall of those who had betrayed him, yet the once treasured memories of warmth and affection clouded his thoughts. The faces of their children, innocent and unaware of the chaos, often pierced his heart with a longing for simpler times. As the proceedings developed, Ryan demonstrated an aggressiveness fueled by purpose. He gathered all the necessary documentation, meticulously cataloging the financial discrepancies that Sarah had woven into their shared life. He scrutinized bank statements filled with unexplained expenses, noting the sum of money that had been funneled into clandestine dinners and hotel rooms. He even paid for a private investigator to gather information on Mark, exposing not just his infidelities, but also careful legal entanglements that might further damage his reputation. In Ryan's mind, this was not mere vindictiveness. He viewed it as an exercise in reclaiming dignity from the ashes of betrayal. Every time Ryan stepped into the courtroom, his heart raced with anticipation, and each victory, whether gaining custody of their children or winning a significant portion of their assets, solidified the fortress built from his bitterness. Each ruling in his favor served both as a balm and a blade, healing his wounds while delivering sharp, pointed retaliation toward Sarah. The judge awarded Ryan the home, once a symbol of their family, the very ground where memories bloomed, now a kingdom reborn under his dominion. But amidst these victories lay the cost of his actions. Friends who once rallied around him now seemed more guarded, uncertain about how to navigate the newfound tension. Ryan noticed the whispers, the sidelong glances. Had he gone too far? He pushed those thoughts aside, attributing them to the weakness of those who didn't feel the weight of betrayal as acutely as he did. No, he would not falter now. He had to maintain his course. Meanwhile, Sarah's attempts at reconciliation fell flat. Her once familiar warmth felt like a burning ember rather than a comforting flame. She appeared at the door one evening, vulnerability painted across her features, but even her pleas resonated with desperation rather than sincerity. Things can be different, Ryan. I'm willing to change, she began, her voice trembling. He chuckled coldly, a realization dawning. The woman he once loved had transformed into a stranger, willing to manipulate their shared history for her benefit. Change? How do you expect me to believe that after what you did? He replied, deadpan. You chose this life, Sarah. You're living with the consequences. You don't get to decide when your mistakes are convenient for you. He felt a rare sense of liberation in his scorn, the thrill of not merely surviving but reclaiming his narrative. Ryan's emotional distance grew, like a stone wall fortifying a castle. He poured his energy into his work, turning to late nights at the office and ambitious projects that once seemed unattainable. It was a distraction, but it also fueled his determination to rise above the ashes of betrayal. Yet despite his flourishing career, the self-imposed gauntlet of isolation left him weary. The loneliness crept in when the business day came to an end, when the four walls of his home felt too empty, without banter echoing through the halls or laughter filling the air. Sarah's absurd need for sympathy was compounded when news of her financial downfall reached him. Without his income to prop her up, her once affluent lifestyle crumbled, and her reputation spiraled downwards with it. Mark, too, faced consequences as word slipped through the grapevine about his involvement with Sarah. Friends began detaching themselves, realizing the depths of deception that huddled within what once had appeared to be a successful man. One evening, Ryan made a point to attend a small gathering at a mutual friend's house. As he entered, he noticed the palpable divide in conversations as eyes darted away from Sarah, who had made an effort to appear composed and dignified. The facade was cracking, and with every holler of a laugh that erupted from the group, Ryan could feel the fissures widen. Karma has a way of biting back, he thought, a smirk playing on the corners of his lips. Amidst the laughter, Ryan felt a wave of empathy, a reality check he was not prepared for. He approached a small group, discussing how deeply Sarah had fallen from grace. She brought this upon herself, one friend remarked astutely, confirming Ryan's own sentiments, yet leaving him conflicted. Pretty soon, she'll be a cautionary tale for anyone thinking they can play two sides, another chimed in. If they only knew the darkness nestled within their laughter. As conversations transformed into chuckles at the expense of Sarah's innocence, Ryan felt a flicker of guilt. Yet that sensation was drowned out by the satisfaction of knowing his wrath had rendered her powerless. He drank deeply from the chalice of revenge, recognizing the intoxicating effect it bestowed on his once battered ego. The internal battle raged on, as Ryan oscillated between exultation and regret. It became clearer that he had not merely sought retribution. The desire for vengeance had morphed into an unquenchable thirst for justice. But was there a line that he ought not to cross? He had relinquished his peace, chosen a path that glorified the agony of betrayal, with each public triumph over Sarah. And then came the day Ryan received the final court judgment in his favor. The evidence conclusively painted a portrait of Sarah's deception, laying bare her actions before the Judicial Committee. As the gavel struck down with finality, Ryan felt an exhilarated rush sweep through him. However, even in that heart-pounding moment, doubt lingered. Would condemning Sarah to an abyss of loneliness and social exile truly weave a tapestry of satisfaction? Or would it leave him with shadows that echoed their past? The ideals of morality suffocated under the strain of his desires, and he grappled with the unrelenting truth. Revenge may satiate his need for justice, but it could never fill the void left by love. As he stood alone in the weight of judgment, Ryan contemplated what lay ahead in the aftermath of betrayal. Would he emerge a victor, or would he succumb to the loneliness that often follows those who trample on love's fragile construct? The future loomed ahead, uncertain yet tantalizing, and somewhere in the depths of his heart, a quiet, gnawing hunger for solace wrestled with the ash and embers of his vengeful triumph. The weeks following the final judgment provided Ryan with a taste of victory he hadn't anticipated. However, the high of his triumph was tempered by a new reality. His life, once brimming with the vibrancy of family, now felt muted, a canvas stripped of color. The taste of revenge had left a bittersweet aftertaste, and while he enjoyed the newfound respect from friends and colleagues, the hollowness of his personal life remained a shadow hanging over him. Ryan often found himself wandering through the home he had fought so hard to reclaim. Each room echoed with memories, the remnants of their shared lives now tainted with betrayal. Their children, Mia and Noah, seemed blissfully unaware of the storm that had raged just below the surface. They continued their routines, school, playdates, and laughter, filling his quiet home with a fleeting semblance of normalcy. Yet, as Ryan watched them, he realized their innocence was slowly dimming, forever altered by the circumstances of their parents. This realization gnawed at him, an unwelcome pang of guilt. One evening, as Ryan prepared dinner, Mia, his precocious 8-year-old, burst into the kitchen, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Daddy, can we make cookies together?" she asked, her golden curls bouncing as she leapt toward him. A smile crept across his face. Mia's innocence provided a brief escape from his conflicted feelings. "Of course, Pumpkin. Let's do it," he responded, momentarily forgetting the weight of his actions outside their little world. The two busied themselves, flour flying in the air as they mixed dough and created doughy shapes on baking sheets. The laughter and lightheartedness of cookie making seemed to thaw the ice that encased his heart, if only for a moment. Yet, when the cookies were finally baked and assembled on the cooling rack, the euphoria faded. Ryan's thoughts drifted back to Sarah. Would she ever get a taste of this kind of happiness again? Would she ever bake cookies for their children? Or would she forever be the pariah of their social circle? The doubts crept back in, a reminder of the cost of his vengeance. And then there was Mark. Ryan had secured not only personal satisfaction with Sarah's downfall, but also a chance to dismantle Mark's reputation. He had shared the ugly details behind the scenes with their mutual friends, but now Ryan found himself feeling some unwelcome sympathy for the man who had, in a misguided quest for intimacy, destroyed a relationship that had so much potential. He was always taught that 2 wrongs didn't make a right. Yet here he was, having orchestrated a series of retaliatory blows that rendered them both fragile and weakened. Eventually, rumors of Sarah's collapse reached him through the whispers of colleagues. The divorce had left her financially crippled. Her friends had abandoned her, and even Mark had distanced himself, lowered not just by guilt, but by public disdain. The news rattled him more than he expected. He hadn't just ruined a connection, he had obliterated her life as she knew it. While Ryan had once relished every small victory, The reality of consequence now brought him to the brink of reconsideration. Thus, when he heard that Sarah had attempted to reconcile with their children, it struck a chord deep within him. Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, Ryan found himself struggling with the juxtaposition of protecting his children and allowing Sarah a chance at redemption. Could he really deny them the chance to have a mother, no matter how flawed? Could Mia and Noah forgive her? He resolved to invite Sarah over, one of many twists of fate he had not planned, but perhaps one he needed. Perhaps it was time to face the consequences of his actions directly, rather than through the lens of vengeance. Onion-lined walls had shielded him from reality for far too long. When the day arrived, the atmosphere in the house turned electric with anxiety. Ryan organized the living room, ensuring it felt welcoming yet neutral. He felt pangs of longing as memories flooded his thoughts. Just 3 months ago, this very space housed warmth and laughter. When Sarah walked through the door, reality bore down heavily between them. She looked different, haggard with dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there before. She wore a fragile mask of confidence, attempting to appear composed, yet he could see the cracks spiderwebbing beneath. "Hi, Ryan," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "Thank you for inviting me." Her mere presence invoked memories that felt like daggers. He was torn between the man seeking revenge and the father who wanted to protect his children. "Sit down," he instructed, his voice firm, yet devoid of malice. As they settled onto opposite ends of the couch, the tension wound tighter in the air. Ryan took a breath before addressing the elephant in the room. "I've heard about what's been happening, Sarah, with you. I want to know how you plan on fixing it, and I want to hear it from you." Her expression shifted into one of vulnerability. For a moment, he glimpsed the woman he fell in love with. "I know I made mistakes, Ryan. I genuinely regret what I did. I'm working on myself. I want to be better for the kids. I'm trying to raise money for therapy, and I'm looking for work. Anything to support myself," she confessed, tears glistening in her eyes. "Please, let me be a part of their lives again." The words hung between them, biting at Ryan's resolve. This wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about navigating the immense responsibility he had as a father to raise their children in a world where they had to confront truth and not shield them behind the walls of resentment. "I'll consider it, but it has to come with boundaries. Trust needs to be rebuilt," he stated, his voice steady. "I'm not sure they can go back to how things were, but I want to believe in second chances." Sarah nodded, her relief evident. "Thank you. I'll do anything, I promise. I just want them to know I'm still their mom." As they parted ways that evening, Ryan's heart twisted in an unexpected manner. It wasn't a return to the love of the past, but perhaps a bridge toward healing, allowing room for forgiveness while retaining the lessons learned. In the days that followed, he implemented the necessary boundaries, slow, incremental steps toward easing his children into their mother's presence. There was something liberating about reclaiming that kind of agency, to allow Sarah back into his family's orbit without losing sight of the value of self-respect and dignity. This transformation began to resonate within him. Ryan was no longer merely a man seeking revenge. He was a father, learning how to navigate the complexities of relationships while grasping the nuances of forgiveness. The pain of betrayal morphed into a lesson about resilience and empathy. But still, Ryan waded through uncertainty as he closed the chapter on his past. This evolving dynamic, fraught with heavy emotions and unanswered questions, would inevitably shape the foundation upon which he rebuilt his family. Though his heart remained guarded, a tentative light peeked through the shards of betrayal, hinting at the possibility that, even in the aftermath of destruction, one could learn to love anew. As he realized that vengeance could only twist him deeper into anguish, Ryan chose the path toward understanding and growth, even realizing that the ultimate defeat of betrayal was perhaps not anger, but reclaiming the ability to love again. As the days turned into weeks, Ryan's emotional landscape shifted. Allowing Sarah back into their lives was a monumental decision, fraught with complexities that tested his resolve and stirred old wounds. He was determined to remain vigilant. His heart had hardened through betrayal, yet a flicker of compassion glowed softly inside. His children's joy at seeing their mother again filled the house with warmth that had been absent for so long. But the lingering shadows of resentment twisted around every meeting and interaction. With every moment that passed, Ryan realized he had embarked on a journey that would test not just his resolve, but the very limits of his emotional endurance. He structured meetings between Sarah and the kids, establishing clear expectations and boundaries. The first visits were awkward, laced with tension as Mia and Noah navigated their conflicting feelings. They adored their mother, and Ryan felt the tug of his insecurities whenever they giggled at her stories, their laughter haunting him with memories of a happier time. One Saturday afternoon, Ryan watched as Mia and Noah eagerly crafted colorful drawings for their mother. It was a simple act of love that ignited a sense of conflict within him, wondering if she deserved such affection and what promise her presence in their lives might hold. He squashed the feelings of jealousy simmering just beneath the surface. As Sarah arrived that afternoon, Ryan noticed the nervousness etched across her features. The transformation brought on by her vulnerability was stark. She carried herself with a diffidence of someone who'd once held influence and power, but had now seen it stripped away. "Hey kids, look what I brought," Sarah exclaimed, holding up a small box of art supplies. The children's faces lit up as they rushed to her, their excitement momentarily silencing the tumult within him. He couldn't help but admire the effort she was investing, but he also could not ignore the skepticism weighing heavily on his heart. "Mom, can we use these to draw together?" Noah asked, his bright eyes searching for approval. "Absolutely," she replied, smiling at them. But Ryan saw her eyes dart towards him, seeking reassurance that he would allow this moment to flourish. He watched as they settled together at the dining table, the kids' laughter mingling with Sarah's. Though the scene tugged at his heartstrings, he found himself questioning whether he was doing the right thing. Did fostering this connection truly benefit the kids? Or was it merely leading them into a minefield of emotional uncertainty? "Ryan, can we talk?" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. The casual conversation of the kids faded into the background as she beckoned him to the living room. The visual separation created an unnatural tension, making Ryan want to retreat, but he knew he needed to face it head on. "Sure," he replied, taking a deep breath. As he followed her into the living room, Ryan mentally prepared himself for the confrontation. "Thank you for letting me see the kids," Sarah began, her voice soft and earnest. "They've really been my anchor through all of this. It means the world to me to have this opportunity. But I know I must earn your trust again." Ryan crossed his arms, his emotion wavering between suspicion and vulnerability. "I'll be honest, this isn't easy for me. Crossed boundaries are still fresh, and I don't want our kids to be hurt again." "You have to understand that." "I know," she replied, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I understand the weight of my mistakes, and I'm working on becoming a better person, for them and for me. I truly want to change." For a moment, they stood in silence, absorbing the gravity of the situation. Ryan could sense her sincerity, yet the ghost of their shared history loomed over them like a silent predator, ready to pounce at any moment. "I can't just overlook what happened," Ryan finally stated, his voice steady but cautious. "We need to be realistic about what this means for everyone. The kids need stability, and I can't allow your mistakes to compromise that. You have to prove yourself again." Sarah nodded fervently. "I will, I promise. I just need time, and I hope you can allow me the chance to show it. Time is all I can give you right now. You'll have to earn back their trust and mine," he replied firmly. "But I hope you can understand I'll be watching your every move." No more mistakes. As their conversation waned, Ryan returned to the kitchen, where the laughter of his children echoed through the house like a sweet symphony. He paused for a moment, blending his lingering resentment with a fleeting spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to navigate this complicated maze together. Days turned into months, and Ryan discovered that Sarah was indeed making strides towards redemption. Not only was she focused on rebuilding her bond with the children, but she also sought counseling to address the issues that had led to her infidelity. That was the glimmer of commitment he had hoped to see. To witness her work tirelessly to ensure she became the mother they deserved. Gradually, the tension that once tightly gripped their interactions began to loosen. Sarah began volunteering to help with school events and became actively involved in their children's interests, attending soccer games and art exhibitions as the renewed foundation of trust took root. The kids thrived in this atmosphere, their laughter rang louder than the past. But within Ryan, the complex duality of emotions remained. As he watched Sarah flourish, there were moments when the pain of betrayal flared anew and jealousy threatened to suffocate the progress they had made. He grappled with the memories that resurfaced, the late nights she had spent away, her feigned warmth masking deeper dissatisfaction. It was a vacuum of emotion that he struggled to fill. One evening, as they sat across from each other at the dinner table, their children animatedly discussing their day, Ryan felt the familiar anger bubbling to the surface. When the conversation shifted to a school outing, where Sarah had volunteered to coordinate the activities, a weight trapped his tongue as he abruptly intervened. "What about the time you let us down? How is this not a repeat of your past? How do we know you won't just disappear again?" The words spilled out before he could catch them. The table fell silent, the air thick with the weight of his accusations. Mia's animated chatter stilled as both children glanced between their parents, sensing the shift in energy. Sarah's face fell hurt, flashing across her features. "I'm trying, Ryan. I understand if you're scared, but I need you to support me while I rebuild my life. The kids deserve that." Ryan felt the instinct to protect boil over. Who was he becoming? Was he slipping into a darker version of himself, allowing the shadow of betrayal to eclipse the present moment? "Maybe I just don't know how to balance all of this," he confessed, his voice hollow with duality. "Your affair ripped apart the foundation we built, and I can't pretend everything is fine when reality keeps reminding me of the past." Sarah studied him for a moment, her expression softening with understanding. "I know I can't erase the past, nor can I ask you to forget it. But I promise you, I will not let the children down. Please, let's work together to make this work." In that moment, Ryan finally understood the weight of forgiveness. The journey ahead was fraught with hurdles, but perhaps the act of forgiveness would allow room for healing, not just for Sarah, but for himself as well. Over the coming weeks, their relationship began to transition from one rife with suspicion to a partnership grounded in a shared commitment towards their children. Facing fears together rather than apart offered them a sense of security that had been shattered. They attended counseling sessions together, openly discussing their feelings, fears, and hopes. Through this fertile ground of vulnerability, Ryan found the seeds of trust slowly taking root again. As they navigated the treacherous waters of rebuilding their lives, he realized it was a long process that required dedication and patience on both sides. It was an uphill battle, but Ryan began to see a path forward, not just toward healing for their family, but toward navigating the complexities of relationships in a world that had so viciously tested their mettle. In choosing to face those fears, to engage in conversations no matter how painful, the duality he experienced began to transform. Instead of viewing Sarah as an enemy, another face of betrayal, he began to see her as a fellow traveler who stumbled and fell but sought redemption in the shadows of their shared past. Ryan now faced the future with a cautious but hopeful heart, understanding that forgiveness is not merely a gift given freely. It is an act of personal liberation. Through the challenges of redemption, he would nurture the seeds of a new life, a new understanding, and the possibility of love reborn in a landscape once marred by betrayal. It was a chance to become a parent, a healer, and ultimately, a man defined not by his scars, but by the ability to rise above them. As the dynamics of their family began to shift, Ryan noticed subtle changes permeating the atmosphere of their home. The tension that had once weighed heavily started to lift as he and Sarah navigated through their new normal. They began to communicate more openly than they'd ever done before, revealing not just the shadows of their past, but also lingering hopes and dreams that had been buried beneath the rubble of betrayal. Mia and Noah blossomed in this environment, They responded to the positivity with infectious energy, frequently drawing pictures for their mother and pulling her into play sessions that filled the space with laughter. Ryan watched with a mixture of warmth and wariness, still acutely aware of how fragile these moments were. He reminded himself to remain vigilant, but allowed himself to acknowledge the necessity of hope, a flickering light in the darkness. One afternoon, they all gathered at the local park for a picnic. The kids excitedly unpacked their sandwiches, cookies, and juice boxes, laughter ringing out like a sweet melody. Despite the underlying tension that had once characterized such outings, the atmosphere felt different now, light and buoyant, as if the specter of the past had begun to fade, if only slightly. "Mom, can you push me on the swings?" Noah exclaimed, his enthusiasm contagious. Sarah beamed, a radiant smile illuminating her face. "Of course! Let's see how high you can fly." She rushed to the swing set, the simple act solidifying her role in their lives again. As Ryan observed this scene, an unfamiliar sense of contentment washed over him. Perhaps forgiveness was granting them all a second chance. The laughter of his children wove through the air, punctuated by Sarah's playful banter. He realized he hadn't felt such genuine happiness since before the betrayal. Yet, amid the blossoming joy, Ryan had his moments of unease. Conversations with Sarah occasionally hinted at underlying doubts he still struggled to shake off. Occasionally, remnants of their past would surface during discussions, leading to temperatures flaring again. It was clear that though they were treading into a new chapter, the pages of their history would always linger on the edges, reminding them of what had transpired. Later that month, during a calm evening after the kids had gone to bed, Ryan and Sarah found themselves sitting on the couch, the soft glow of the television illuminating their faces. They were watching an old movie, its familiarity making them both nostalgic but reflective. "Do you remember when we saw this for the first time?" Sarah asked, her eyes misty with memories. "We laughed so hard at that scene where the dog steals the sandwich." Ryan chuckled at the recollection, but it quickly turned into a frown. "Yeah, I remember. Everything felt so perfect back then, before all of this." "Ryan, I know I messed up." Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she continued. "I know I can't change the past, but every day I'm striving to be the person you deserve. I just want our family back." "Do you really think we can go back to how it was?" Ryan questioned, his skepticism lingering like an unwelcome guest. "People can't just forget that kind of hurt, Sarah. Even if we try to pretend everything is fine, the scar will always be there." "I get that. I'm not asking for a magic reset button," she confessed, a hint of desperation in her eyes. "But I want us to build something new, something stronger. I want to prove to you that I can be better." Ryan weighed her words carefully. He wanted to believe her, but fear lingered in the back of his mind. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of heartbreak all over again. "It's going to take time. I don't want to dismiss your efforts, but I need to see the change, not just hear it. I'm prepared for the hard work, Ryan. I know change takes time," she assured him, her voice steady. "I'm committed to this, to us." In that moment, the air shimmered with an unspoken challenge. Ryan realized that opening his heart again required significant risk, but longing for distance would mean remaining empty, whereas the act of practicing vulnerability could yield fulfillment. There might be no clear roadmap to navigate this terrain, but perhaps that journey was precisely what they needed to rediscover one another. As weeks turned into months, they continued to grow together, treading cautiously but purposefully. Ryan began to observe tangible changes within Sarah. She remained consistent in meeting with her therapist and actively sought ways to contribute positively to the children's lives. Whether it was organizing playdates or volunteering at their school, her dedication slowly seeped into every corner of their lives. One particularly pivotal night, with the once empty living room filled with the remnants of pizza boxes and forgotten homework assignments, Ryan and Sarah found themselves reflecting on how much they had both grown. The kids were playing upstairs, their laughter flowing down like music, and the atmosphere felt saturated with healing. He turned to Sarah, his heart racing. "You know, I never thought we could get to this point again. I mean, not after everything." But here we are, trying. You're doing it, Sarah. I'm proud of you. A smile blossomed on Sarah's face, gratitude and relief washing over her. Thank you for saying that. It means more than I can express. Knowing you still see the potential in this, in me, gives me strength. Over time, they began to communicate before anger had the chance to escalate, always mindful of their past while making space for the prospect of a brighter future. Ryan began to share his emotions more openly, allowing vulnerability to temper the walls he'd built. In doing so, he found that it also created a ripple effect, inviting Sarah to share her own fears and aspirations. Yet the specter of betrayal still loomed, a constant reminder of the path they had traveled. During moments of doubt, Ryan caught himself envisioning a future marred with uncertainty, a future where history might repeat itself. Whether through nightmares or fleeting thoughts, the memories of what had been eroded still pervaded his consciousness. One evening, after an especially vivid dream in which shadows loomed large over their familial bliss, Ryan found it impossible to sleep. He lay wide-eyed in bed, the weight of anxiety anchoring him in place. Unable to bear the silence, he slipped from his bed and wandered into the living room, where dim light cast long shadows across the floor. As he sank into the couch, Sarah, alerted by his movements, quietly joined him. "What's wrong?" she whispered, immediately sensing his restlessness. "I just can't shake this feeling that everything is still so fragile," he admitted, his voice low. "What if it all slips away again? What if I let my guard down only to find myself broken again?" With gentle determination, Sarah reached for his hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "I understand that fear. I feel it too. We both do. But healing doesn't happen overnight or without work. It takes courage to face those fears and commit to growth, but we're doing it together, one step at a time." Her words wrapped around him like a warm embrace, coaxing warmth into the cold chamber of his heart. Ryan found solace in the idea that they were confronting their demons side by side, fortified by the partnership they had forged. "Do you really believe we'll get through this?" he asked, a spark of vulnerability making him hesitant and exposed. "I believe in us," Sarah affirmed, her eyes clear and earnest. "We're learning to love in a way that acknowledges the challenges and mistakes. We're actively working to create something new and beautiful from what was once broken." In that moment, Ryan felt the weight of darkness begin to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of hope. He appreciated that while the scars of their past had marked their journey, they no longer defined their future. As they sat together in the quiet embrace of the night, something awakened in him, a quiet resolution rooted in resilience. With every laugh shared with their children and every genuine moment they spent together, Ryan allowed himself to dream of what awaited them. The fear that once gripped him lessened as he learned to trust again. Trust in Sarah, trust in the possibility of rebuilding love, and trust in himself as a father and partner. The journey they embarked on had not been easy, nor would it be flawless. But as long as they faced it together, he felt the flicker of love rekindling in the depths of his heart. United by shared experiences, both joyous and painful, they were creating a narrative of hope, one that breathed life into their family once more. And as the weight of the past transformed into an ember of resilience, Ryan knew they were taking steps toward a new kind of happiness, one forged in honesty, accountability, and a profound commitment to their journey together. While uncertainty still lurked in the corners of his mind, he felt ready to face it, not as a prisoner of betrayal, but as a man determined to embrace the light of love anew. As the weeks progressed, Ryan and Sarah's tentative partnership began to solidify. The tensions that once defined their interactions transformed into a unified effort to heal, not just as a couple, but as parents and individuals, striving for better versions of themselves. The underlying pain of betrayal continued to exist, a ghost lurking in the corner of their new reality, but with each passing day, they learned to coexist with that specter rather than being overwhelmed by it. Back at the park where they had first started to rebuild their family dynamic, The soft spring breeze stirred the air, intertwining the playful giggles of Mia and Noah with the vibrant sounds of nature. The golden light bathed the park in warmth as Ryan watched his children slide down the jungle gym, their joy infectious. Sarah stood nearby, chatting with another parent, her animated laughter ringing clear. It was a sound he could now appreciate without the pain that once accompanied it. As Ryan joined Sarah, he felt a flutter of gratitude wash over him. "You seem pretty popular today," he commented, nudging her playfully. She grinned, flushed with joy as they surveyed the horizon together. "It feels good to be part of the community again, you know? Sharing this moment with you and the kids makes everything seem right." Yet Ryan's essence stirred rapidly, aware of the lingering tension within himself. "I'm glad, really, but I can't shake off this constant worry. What if someone brings up the past?" "I don't want to subject the kids to any of that," he admitted, his voice laced with unease. Sarah turned to him, her expression softening as she sensed his concern. "We can't let the past dictate our present. Yes, it's a part of us, but it does not define who we are now." "I get that," Ryan replied, trying to decipher his thoughts. "But the whispers, the glances, what if someone asks our kids about it?" "Let them," Sarah replied with an unexpected strength, a hint of defiance in her voice. "We'll handle it together. I'll support them, and we'll face whatever questions come our way as a family. They need to know they can talk to us about anything, even the uncomfortable things." Ryan smiled at her resolve, a flicker of warmth igniting in his chest. Perhaps they could forge their new path. It was a daunting leap, but as a family, they could tackle questions head-on. The prospect felt empowering. As weeks turned into months, the children's school year wrapped up and transitions into summer began. With that change, Ryan and Sarah devised plans to create new memories, vacations to explore nearby attractions, and lazy days at home to simply reconnect. One weekend, they arranged a camping trip to a beautiful lake about 2 hours away, untouched by the bustle of daily life. The plan was simple: enjoy nature, laze around, and share stories under the stars. Ryan welcomed the opportunity, hoping the change of scenery would further rejuvenate their family dynamic. Arriving at the campsite, the air was filled with anticipation and excitement. They unloaded the car, Mia and Noah's squeals echoing off the trees as they raced to explore their surroundings. Sarah busied herself setting up the tent, her fingers deftly encasing the sleeping bags and gear. Ryan admired her sense of purpose, but a surge of anxiety gripped him. The unfamiliar environment underlined vulnerabilities he had hoped to leave behind. Once the campsite was established, the children sprang into action, immediately grabbing fishing poles and running toward the nearby lake. Ryan felt hesitant. What if they ventured too far? Would they be safe? But as he caught Sarah's reassuring smile, he chose to relinquish that control and soak in the spontaneity of the moment. "Let's just enjoy this," Ryan whispered to himself, walking toward the water where laughter bubbled with enthusiasm. He felt the familiar pinch of worry, but immersed himself in the present, watching Mia and Noah, their faces lit with excitement. As evening descended, the campsite transformed under the shimmering stars. They built a fire, the flickering flames casting playful shadows. Sitting together, roasting marshmallows, Ryan found a newfound appreciation for the simple act of being together. He watched Sarah interact seamlessly with the kids, her laughter harmonizing with theirs, soothing his spirit. It was moments like these that allowed echoes of their former life to blend into a hopeful future. "Mom, this is the best," Noah cheered, devouring his s'more. "Can we come back here every year?" Sarah beamed at him. "Absolutely. This can be our special place." Her gaze met Ryan's, a moment of silent understanding passing between them. "Next time, we can bring the bikes," Mia chimed in enthusiastically, her eyes twinkling with dreams of mining deeper adventures. "And maybe even go on a nature hike?" "Incredible ideas," Ryan encouraged, feeling warmth spread through him. "This whole trip can be a new adventure we all share." As they traded ideas for future trips, Ryan felt the weight of resentment lifted from his shoulders. The torch began illuminating a path toward vulnerability, growing ever brighter. Later that night, as they settled into the tent after a long day filled with laughter and reconnecting, Ryan found himself and Sarah lying side by side. Tent walls rustled softly as the summer breeze flowed through, and the calm echoes of nature surrounded them. "Tonight was amazing," Ryan murmured, gazing up at the fabric overhead as he traced patterns with his fingertips. "It was," Sarah whispered back, her tone filled with warmth. "I feel like we're really creating new memories." "Yeah," he replied, turning onto his side to face her. I just wanted to thank you for putting in the effort. I see how hard you're trying, and it means a lot to me." Her eyes glimmered in the soft illumination of their camping lantern, vulnerability flickering in their depths. "Thank you for allowing me to be here, for showing me grace. I know I've made mistakes, but tonight, this feels like a fresh start for us all." With every word, Ryan felt the remnants of his earlier trepidation slowly dissipate. Those fragments of their history remained as reminders, but they now coexisted with hope. "Here's to new beginnings, then," he proposed, raising an imaginary glass in the air, a soft smirk forming on his lips. "And to the future," Sarah echoed, her gaze sincere as they linked hands, a promise enveloping their moment. As sleep took them in its embrace, Ryan realized that life had gifted them a chance to redefine their journey. Slowly, they were learning to transform the pain of betrayal into a newfound hope, a radiant beacon guiding them toward a future where old scars may still exist, but were weathered by resilience, support, and love forged anew. The camping trip became a cornerstone in their journey. Each new experience intertwined their lives further, painting vivid memories they could cherish moving forward. Forgiveness and trust began to bloom, allowing them to tackle the complexities of parenthood and partnership in ways they never thought possible. With every laugh shared and every challenge faced, Ryan recognized that true healing was not a destination. It was a continuous journey, requiring all of them to adapt and grow. And together, they were crafting new chapters, one filled with moments of visceral joy, echoes of laughter, and a depth of love that eclipsed the shadows of the past. As the summer days turned warm and long, Ryan found himself enveloped in a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. The camping trip had been a watershed moment for their family, a symbol of their commitment to move past the pains of betrayal. With Sarah actively engaging in the children's lives and meeting Ryan's expectations, it felt as though they were genuinely forging a path toward rebuilding their family. Mia and Noah thrived in the new atmosphere, their laughter echoing through the house in a manner that made Ryan's heart swell with pride. Weekends became a blur of soccer games, art projects, and movie nights. And each day, Ryan noticed the subtle shifts in his own happiness. The smiles exchanged between him and Sarah were no longer loaded with suspicion. Instead, they reflected a shared understanding and a collective effort to create a warm foundation for their children. One breezy Saturday, they found themselves preparing for a family outing to the local amusement park. It had been a goal on their planning board since that camping trip. Ryan's heart raced with excitement and trepidation. He wanted to create an atmosphere of joy for the kids, but the anxiety of falling back into old patterns teased at the edges of his mind. As they piled into the car, Sarah turned to him. "Are you ready for this? It's going to be an adventure. Let's hope it's the kind that doesn't leave us with the kids whining for cotton candy and roller coaster rides too much." Ryan chuckled, but he could see the nervousness in Sarah's eyes. The weight of their past still echoed in the corners, but they were determined to make today enjoyable. The amusement park buzzed with energy as they arrived. Colors exploded from every direction, laughter mingled with screams of excitement, and the smell of popcorn and sweet cotton candy engulfed them as they walked through the entrance. Mia and Noah, their faces painted with enthusiasm, raced ahead, pulling their parents along exuberantly. "Let's go on the Ferris wheel first," Noah yelled, his tiny hands tugging on Ryan's arm. Ryan and Sarah exchanged glances, still adjusting to this new alignment. But he felt a rush of adrenaline as they complied, following the kids into line. As they climbed aboard the Ferris wheel, Ryan's heart raced, not just from the height, but from watching the kids' faces light up in glowing anticipation. "I can see our house from the top," Mia squealed, bouncing in her seat. "Hold on tight, we're going up," Ryan replied, laughter mingling with the breeze as the wheel began its ascent. From that height, the entire park unfolded like a vast tapestry of joy in every direction. The memories of the past felt like a distant hum. During their day at the park, they rode countless rides, shared sticky snacks, and reveled in each other's presence. Skipping the natural inclination to dwell on their past struggles became effortless in the face of happiness that radiated from the children. As the sun dipped low, casting golden rays across the sky, they settled on a grassy knoll for a moment of respite. The kids sprawled out, content and exhausted, while Ryan and Sarah exchanged stories of their favorite childhood park memories. "I remember when my dad took me here, and I was too scared to go on the rides. I hope our kids never feel that way," Ryan said, chuckling at the recollection. "Same. I was terrified of the Ferris wheel until my little brother convinced me to just try it," Sarah added, her laughter echoing in the golden light of evening. However, as the excitement ebbed and the chatter exchanged became more reflective, the specter of their past began to stir once more in Ryan's mind. He turned to Sarah, his tone shifting to one of seriousness. "How do you handle pressures of the past? Like, do you ever think about what we almost lost?" "No, we can't dwell on that," she said candidly, a hint of wistfulness in her expression. "Those thoughts haunt me sometimes, but I choose to see how far we've come rather than falling back into despair. It's a conscious decision every day. But fear still exists. Are you really okay?" Ryan pressed gently, longing to bridge the gulf between them. Sarah glanced at their children, who remained absorbed in these little moments of family bliss, and took a deep breath. "I'm constantly fighting those inner demons, Ryan. I don't want the fear of losing you to control me. I choose to step forward and break that cycle. Just like you." Her words, full of resolve and vulnerability, struck a chord deep within him. "I want to feel that way too. Moving forward shouldn't come at the expense of our happiness. It's just hard." "No one said it would be easy," Sarah replied, her smile becoming softer but genuine. "But together, we can do this. We can support each other, and we have to." "That's what family's about, right?" Mia and Noah chimed in, pulling their parents back to the present. "Can we go get ice cream now?" they both requested, their excitement palpable. "You two never miss a beat," Ryan declared, shaking his head fondly. As they walked toward the ice cream stand, Ryan felt lighter. Together, they were facing those lingering fears head-on, allowing love to illuminate paths once dimmed by despair. Over the next few months, Ryan and Sarah continued amplifying their efforts, attending family events and gatherings, not to prove anything to anyone, but to cultivate their growing family bond. Friends who had once drifted away due to personal challenges began slowly to step back into their lives, while newfound connections with people from their community flourished. One evening, while they hosted a gathering of friends in their backyard, Ryan could feel the camaraderie envelop them. Laughter filled the air as the children played in the background, and he found himself leaning back in awe of the scene. He noticed how Sarah engaged with warmth and sincerity, her excitement infectious, embodying everything he had longed for in their partnership. "Do you think we'll ever return to a point where we don't have to think about the past?" Ryan mused aloud, lingering on the line between the past and present. "Maybe," Sarah replied thoughtfully, gazing at their children. "As long as we keep moving forward, outward growth will bring us strength. It's about the journey and accepting these moments with mended paths." In that moment, surrounded by laughter and love, Ryan understood the powerful truth behind her words. The past, with all its scars, would always be a part of their story, but each day presented an opportunity to confront it more resiliently. However, just as they began to embrace this newfound stability, life delivered a curveball Ryan never anticipated. An unexpected phone call shattered the evening's tranquility. "Ryan, it's work," his manager said, a note of urgency in his voice. We're restructuring the department, and I need to discuss your position. Panic gripped Ryan, the old anxiety bubbling to the surface. The throbbing fear of losing the stability he had fought for overwhelmed him as he hung up the phone. "Sarah," he said, his voice low, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach, "I might lose my job." The threat of their newfound optimism felt fragile, as uncertainty loomed on the horizon. But they would face it together, as they had faced the many trials that had come before. It was not just about Ryan's job, it was about navigating life as a family, embracing the lessons learned, and reflecting on how far they had come together. In that pivotal moment, embracing the unknown was not just about survival, it became a testament to the love forged through hardship. As they linked hands, two individuals who had fought against the odds, they took a breath and prepared to face whatever challenges awaited. Ryan looked into Sarah's eyes and felt the flicker of resilience they both carried. They had climbed mountains of despair together, and with every step, they reveled in the triumph of their rebirth, a powerful narrative that belonged to them both. This time, they would navigate forward as partners, ready to forge their future anew. As the lingering weight of uncertainty settled between Ryan and Sarah, he felt a familiar tightness in his chest. It was one thing to overcome the personal trauma of betrayal, but now, standing on the precipice of potential job loss, he found himself thrust back into the fray of doubt and fear. The prospect of losing his job not only threatened his sense of stability, but also rekindled the specters of inadequacy that he had spent so long battling. "Ryan, we'll figure this out," Sarah reassured him, her voice steady, but he could see the worry in her eyes. "Let's not jump to conclusions until we know what's really happening." She grabbed his hand, squeezing it tightly, grounding him. "I know that," Ryan replied, taking a deep breath. "It's just, everything seems so fragile right now, like it could all collapse in an instant. I've worked so hard to get where I am, and I don't want to return to that place of insecurity." "I understand," she said softly, her expression shifting from alarm to understanding. "But we've faced harder battles together. You've turned pained moments into strength, and you can do it again. Remember the boundaries we set? We're a team. Let's focus on what we can control." Ryan nodded, appreciating her unwavering support despite the storm brewing within him. That Sunday afternoon, he resolved to take charge of the situation rather than be swallowed by it. As they stood in the kitchen preparing dinner, he marked that moment as the start of action. "I'm going to schedule a meeting with my manager tomorrow and find out exactly what's going on. Knowledge is power." "Yes, good idea," Sarah encouraged. "And whatever the outcome, we'll navigate it together. Who knows, maybe this is an opportunity for something new." With the support of their bond, Ryan managed to muster a glimmer of hope. That night he tossed and turned, sleep eluding him. His mind raced with worst-case scenarios, but deep down, he found a flicker of determination. No matter the outcome, he and Sarah were committed to weathering the storm together. The following day, Ryan walked into the office, steeling himself for his meeting. He could hear the whispers permeating the hallways, echoing the anxiety felt by all employees in the wake of rumors about the restructuring. Reaching his manager's office, he knocked cautiously before entering. "Ryan, thanks for coming in," his manager said, gesturing for him to sit. "I know you've got questions, and I want to assure you that we're doing our best to mitigate any fallout." Ryan took a breath. "I've heard the rumors, and I'm worried about my role in all of this. Can you give me clarity?" His manager nodded, her expression serious. "The company is indeed restructuring, focusing more on automation and shifting resources. However, your performance metrics have remained strong, and I want to assure you, you're not losing your position." Relief surged through Ryan. "So, I'm safe?" "For now, yes, but we're also looking to shift some roles around, and I need someone with your experience to help lead that transition," she further explained. Pride swelled within him as he felt a renewed sense of purpose. "I'd be willing to take on that responsibility," he replied earnestly. "I want to ensure we navigate this change successfully." As he exited the meeting, an uplifting sense of accomplishment settled within him. He had tapped into his strength, and it had paid off. Returning home felt new, filled with promise rather than dread. When Sarah looked up from the living room, her face illuminated with curiosity, he couldn't help but beam. "How'd it go?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. "I'm safe," he replied, energy radiating from him. "They want me to lead part of the transition moving forward." A broad grin spread across Sarah's face. "That's amazing. I knew you could do it. You've got this. I owe it to you too, you know. Your support pushed me to take the steps I needed." They shared a celebratory hug, one that felt neither forced nor fragile, but deeply rooted in mutual respect and love, acknowledging how far they had come. However, real-life pressures didn't dissipate entirely. As Ryan settled back into the routine of work and home, he quickly realized the transition involved more than just a new project. The added responsibility brought feelings of overwhelm and stress. Compounded with his memories of the previous fallout they had faced, old insecurities poked through the seams of his newfound confidence. One evening, as he sat at the dining table reviewing project documents after the kids had gone to bed, Ryan lost focus. His mind drifted back to the dark days of betrayal, where fear had dictated his emotions. The weight of anxiety started creeping back, a familiar companion that clouded his judgment. "Ryan?" Sarah's voice cut through his thoughts. She stepped into the room, concern etched across her face. "You seem distant. What's going on?" He forced a smile, but knew it looked strained. "Just work stuff. I have a lot to manage, and I'm trying to figure it all out." "Talk to me." She approached, sitting beside him, her expression unwavering. "You've been through so much, you can lean on me." Ryan sighed, feeling the battle of turmoil and pride within him. "I don't want to feel inadequate again, Sarah. I thought I had this under control. Maybe I'm not cut out for this." "No, we've both come too far for that kind of thinking," she said firmly, her gaze intense but loving. "You're capable, and it's okay to acknowledge that this is daunting. We can tackle it together." "I don't want to bring you down with my worries," Ryan confessed, his voice shaky. "You're not a burden. We're partners in this, Ryan," she affirmed, placing her hand over his. "Let's brainstorm how to tackle this challenge together. You don't have to do it alone." Her sincerity began to chip away at the facade he'd built. Taking a deep breath, Ryan's shoulders relaxed. "I think breaking it down into manageable steps could work. Maybe setting clear priorities?" "Absolutely," Sarah encouraged. "And I can help. We can schedule a family meeting to allocate responsibilities, which will give you space to breathe." "That sounds reasonable," Ryan agreed, warmth bubbling in his chest. He realized that allowing Sarah to support him didn't signify weakness. It represented their collective strength. As they shared their thoughts, the conversation steered away from his burdens, allowing a sense of unity and collaboration to fill the room. They laughed together, strategizing how to balance their commitments while keeping their eyes on their family's happiness. The following family meeting became an extraordinary moment, reflecting their growth. With Mia and Noah involved, they divided household chores and discussed daily schedules, ensuring everyone felt included. For the first time, Ryan recognized a sense of empowerment and stability, not just for himself, but for the whole family. With Sarah by his side, Ryan led the charge into his work challenges, tackling them with a renewed sense of partnership and resilience. But as he thrived in the new role, the foundation of support bloomed in the most unexpected ways, a reminder that navigating uncertainties together could only strengthen their bonds. Days turned into weeks, and gradually, Ryan grew more comfortable in his new position. As the company transitioned and began to implement new strategies, he recognized the remarkable progress being made, not only in the department, but within his relationship with Sarah. They remained devoted to nurturing what they were building together. The experience solidified not just their partnership, but his understanding of vulnerability, a strength he had once equated with weakness. Together, they learned to face challenges head-on, exploring new avenues of love as they began delving into deeper conversations and opening their hearts even further. In moments of shared laughter or quiet evenings spent curled up together, Ryan embraced the lessons learned in the wake of betrayal. Love is intricately woven with challenges, and through vulnerability comes the opportunity for profound healing. As they prepared for another camping trip, this time with their children packed in the car, brimming with excitement, he felt optimism pour into his soul like the gentle stream flowing nearby. He wrapped his arms around Sarah, feeling secure in sharing both the struggles and the triumphs. Each heartbeat resonated in tandem, echoing a promise of love forged from the ashes, now blossoming into something beautifully strong. This adventure marked another step towards redefining their story. Together, they cast their fears aside, knowing that as long as they faced the future in unity, they would learn to navigate each twist and turn together. And with each moment they embraced, love flourished, embedding their journey deeper into the vibrant tapestry of their lives. As the days turned into weeks leading up to their second camping trip, Ryan felt a renewed sense of anticipation. The car was packed with fishing gear, tents, and a carefully curated playlist designed to keep everyone entertained. Mia and Noah buzzed with energy, their chatter filling the air with excitement for the adventure ahead. This trip wasn't just another outing. It was a celebration of their progress, a chance to reinforce the bonds they'd built through the trials of their past. "Is everything ready, Dad? We can't forget the marshmallows," Noah exclaimed, his tiny arms flailing with enthusiasm as he loaded the last of the bags into the trunk. "Of course, I packed extra marshmallows just for you," Ryan replied with a wink. Suddenly, the memory of last year's trip, where they had all shared laughter over s'mores, flooded his mind. Each moment they created together reaffirmed the purpose of their new path. As they began their journey to the campsite, Ryan felt an air of tranquility envelop them. The trees whizzed past, and the rhythmic hum of the road provided a soothing backdrop. Carly Simon's soothing melody filled the air as Ryan and Sarah exchanged glances, their smiles reflective of mutual understanding and unspoken promises. "Do you think we will see any animals this time?" Mia inquired, her excitement palpable. "Maybe some deer or even a bear," Sarah chimed in, playing along, her eyes sparkling with spirited energy. "Not a bear," Noah squealed dramatically. "That sounds scary." "Don't worry, there are no bears where we're going, just fun," Ryan assured him, chuckling at his son's wide-eyed expression. Once they arrived at the campsite, the excitement intensified. Unlike their previous outing, this time they knew the routine. They set up the tent quickly, working like a well-oiled machine. In the middle of the preparations, Ryan caught a moment to look around. A sense of gratitude wafted over him. Compared to the hurt of what had transpired in the past, this was a new beginning. As night descended, they gathered around the campfire, the crackling flames providing warmth as they roasted hot dogs and marshmallows. The children shared stories of their day, each one infused with imaginative adventures. Their laughter was contagious, and as Ryan watched them, he felt a profound sense of connection, no longer an echo of uncertainty, but rather a music of love. Amidst the swarms of fireflies flickering about, Ryan cherished the moment. He turned to Sarah, who sat beside him, a contented smile stretching across her face. "I'm glad we did this again," he said, his voice soft, yet full of depth. "Me too. Every moment we get to spend together like this solidifies what we've built," she replied, eyes glittering in the firelight. "It reminds me to not take a single second for granted." "What does that mean to you?" he queried, curious about the sentiment behind her words. "It means recognizing our journey and not being afraid to embrace where we are now. We may have faced darkness, but we've emerged stronger, and that's worth celebrating," she said, her tone earnest. Ryan nodded knowingly, feeling a bittersweet awareness of the shadows they'd navigated. "I appreciate how far we've come, but I also know there's work ahead. Growth is an ongoing journey. I trust we'll keep learning together, and as long as we're committed to that, we can handle anything," Sarah reassured him. It was a quiet moment between them where silence spoke volumes. As the embers glowed, Ryan felt a surge of gratitude for Sarah's unwavering support. They had both come so far, and the night glimmered with possibilities. Later, they snuggled into their sleeping bags as the night deepened, the sounds of the outdoors lulling them into a state of peace. However, amidst the comforting symphony of wildlife, Ryan found himself unable to sleep. Thoughts of vulnerability and uncertainty began to creep back in. What if life returned to the tumultuous reality from the past? What if the peace he now felt was just an illusion? He was overwhelmed by the fear that there might come a time when their journey would face adversity again. "Can't sleep?" Sarah whispered, sensing his restlessness. "No, just thinking," he sighed, shifting to face her in the dim light. "About what?" she asked gently. "About us, how we got here and what comes next," he replied, the honesty pouring from him like the gentle night breeze. "I get it," Sarah said, her voice soothing and warm. "But remember what we've built together. We've chosen to face these fears side by side, and that's powerful. We're a team. And every challenge we encounter is just another opportunity to grow together." With those words, Ryan felt the cold grip of anxiety begin to ease. "I just want to ensure we stay on this path," he admitted, "that we don't deviate back to any old patterns." "Neither do I," she agreed, reaching for his hand and giving it a reassuring squeeze. "We'll confront whatever comes our way together. I promise." Finally finding solace in their conversation, Ryan closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of her presence seep into him. The path ahead might climb into the unknown, but as long as he had Sarah, the fear would always be met with love and resilience. The next morning greeted them with a golden sunrise, the sounds of birds chirping, and a gentle breeze rustling the leaves surrounding the campsite. Ryan emerged from the tent, stretching his arms above his head and inhaling the fresh, crisp air. As the family prepared for a day of hiking and exploration, they ventured onto the trails, soaking in the beauty of their surroundings. Ryan felt a newfound sense of clarity. It was about embracing each moment, both the joy and the uncertainty, and allowing the experience to shape their family rather than letting fear dictate their reality. They wandered deep into the woods, laughter trailing behind them like a vibrant thread woven through the fabric of nature. The trail led them to a clearing, where a stunning view of the lake awaited them, reflecting the blues and greens around it like liquid glass. It was breathtaking, a reminder of the beauty of life when lived fully. "Look at that!" Noah squealed, his tiny finger pointing toward the shimmering surface of the water. "Can we swim?" "All right, let's do it," Ryan exclaimed, feeling the exhilaration of spontaneity wash over him. The children dashed toward the water, while Sarah and Ryan watched, grinning at each other with disbelief. In that moment, Ryan took a deep breath and felt light. As joy cascaded around them, Ryan noticed small moments. The way Sarah laughed with their kids, how Mia splashed playfully, and how Noah grinned from ear to ear. These memories were threading into the tapestry of their lives, a pattern of love and healing steadily taking shape. With each ripple in the water and laughter that floated on the breeze, Ryan realized that no matter the challenges ahead, the bonds he shared with Sarah and their children would be enough to weather any storm. They were stronger together, blossoming amidst adversity and more profound than the sum of their parts. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow across the camp, Ryan took Sarah's hand. "I want you to know that I'm not just grateful for today. I'm grateful for every step that led us here, and I can't wait to see where we go next." Sarah squeezed his hand tightly. "Me too," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "We're building our family and our future, one moment at a time. And I know we'll keep growing together." As night fell once more, they gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and dreams under a canopy of stars. The flickering flames danced like their hearts, filled with light, warmth, and the enduring belief that love could heal even the deepest of wounds. Together they faced the horizon of an uncertain future, knowing that home was not just a place, but a commitment to one another, and that in their journey every moment counted, building toward a vibrant tapestry of hope, love, and resilience.